I discovered that I am not the father of my 14-year-old son, and my wife wants to have a happy family with the biological father. But in court, my son spoke up, leaving my wife desperate. The DNA test arrived on a Thursday. I'd ordered it secretly after finding text messages between my wife and her old college boyfriend. Messages about how Dylan had his eyes, how the timing had always been right, how she'd made a choice 14 years ago and now regretted it. My hands shook as I read the results. 0% probability of paternity. I read it 3 times, hoping the words would change. They didn't. That night, I sat across from Veronica at dinner while Dylan talked about his soccer tournament. I'd coached his team for 6 years, taught him to ride a bike, stayed up all night when he had pneumonia at age 8, been the only father he'd ever known. Watched him grow from a tiny infant into this incredible kid who laughed at my bad jokes and asked my advice about everything. "We need to talk," I said after Dylan went to bed. Veronica knew immediately. Her face went white. "You tested him. His real father, Trevor. You've been in contact." She didn't deny it. Instead, she started crying about how she'd made a mistake. How Trevor was successful now, stable, ready to be a real family. How Dylan deserved to know his biological father. "Dylan deserves the truth," she said. "Trevor wants to be involved. We could all what? Play house? You want me to just disappear? You'll always be important to him, but Trevor is his actual father." I filed for divorce the next morning. Veronica immediately filed for full custody, claiming I had no legal rights since I wasn't the biological parent. Trevor hired an expensive attorney and started showing up at Dylan's soccer games, introducing himself to other parents as Dylan's dad. Talking about all the time they'd spent together now. The custody hearing was set for 3 weeks later. During those weeks, Veronica told Dylan everything. I watched my son's face crumble as she explained that Trevor was his real father, that they'd all be together now. One big, happy family. Dylan stopped talking to me, wouldn't return my calls. When I drove by the house, I'd see Trevor's car in the driveway. Veronica said he needed space to process and bond with his biological father. I showed up to court expecting to lose everything. Trevor sat beside Veronica, his hand on her knee, looking confident. Their lawyer had a 3-inch binder of documents proving biological parentage and arguing I had no standing. But then the judge asked Dylan if he wanted to speak. He was old enough to have his voice heard. Dylan stood up. His voice cracked. "I know Trevor is my biological father, but he's been alive my whole life and never cared until now." He looked at me. "Dad taught me everything. He's been at every game, every parent-teacher conference, every hospital visit. Biology doesn't make you a father. Showing up does." Veronica's face went pale. "Dylan, honey, you don't understand." "I understand that you lied to everyone," Dylan said. "And now you want me to pretend Dad doesn't exist because it's convenient." The judge listened carefully, then asked Trevor a series of questions. What was Dylan's favorite subject? What allergies did he have? What was his best friend's name? Trevor couldn't answer any of them, but I could. The judge granted me full custody rights based on my established parental relationship. Veronica would have to fight for visitation. Trevor was ordered to pay child support, but was not granted custody. Outside the courthouse, Veronica grabbed my arm. "You can't take him from me. You tried to erase me from his life," I said. "The judge saw exactly who you are." That evening, Dylan moved his stuff back into his room at my place. We ordered pizza and watched his favorite movie like we used to. For a moment, everything felt normal. Then my phone buzzed. A message from Veronica's sister. "You need to know something about Trevor. Something they've been hiding. It's about why he really came back. Call me now." I stared at the message, my stomach dropping. My finger hovered over the call button. Dylan looked up from his pizza. "Dad, you okay? Who's texting?" I forced a smile. Nothing important, just work stuff. But my hands were shaking again, just like when I'd opened the DNA results. After Dylan fell asleep, I stepped onto the back porch and called Veronica's sister, Bethany. We'd always gotten along well. She'd been the only one in Veronica's family who seemed genuinely upset about what happened. She answered on the first ring. "Thank God. I've been waiting." "What's going on?" "Trevor didn't come back because he suddenly wanted to be a father." Her voice was tight. "He came back because he's dying." The words hit me like a punch. "What?" "Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. He has maybe 6 months. A year if he's lucky." I sat down heavily on the porch steps. "I don't understand. His life insurance policy, it's substantial. But there's a clause. Beneficiaries have to be immediate family, spouse or children." Bethany's voice cracked. "He doesn't have a spouse, but he remembered Dylan. So this was about money?" "Worse, Veronica knew. She's known for 3 months. Trevor promised her half the payout if she helped him establish paternity and get partial custody. We're talking nearly $2 million. My vision blurred. She was going to use Dylan for an inheritance. I found the paperwork in her desk last week. Life insurance documents, emails between her and Trevor discussing how to split everything. How to make it look natural so you wouldn't contest it. Bethany was crying now. I confronted her yesterday. She said I didn't understand, that this was Dylan's inheritance, his birthright from a man who abandoned him for 14 years. She's desperate. The divorce is going to clean her out. She quit her job 6 months ago because Trevor promised her this money. She's been living off credit cards waiting for this payday. I thought about Trevor at the courthouse, his hand on Veronica's knee, the expensive lawyer, the confidence. He'd been playing a role. Dying man tries to reconnect with long-lost son. Heartwarming story. Perfect cover. Does Dylan know any of this? No, and you can't tell him. Not yet. Bethany's voice was urgent. Trevor will die soon enough. If Dylan finds out now, it'll destroy him. He'll blame himself for choosing you. He'll wonder if he should have given Trevor a chance. He deserves to know the truth. He deserves to keep believing his father, you, protected him, that he made the right choice, because he did. Bethany paused. But I'm sending you copies of everything, the emails, the life insurance paperwork, all of it. just in case Veronica tries something else. The files came through 10 minutes later. I spent the next 2 hours reading through them. Email after email between Veronica and Trevor. Clinical, calculating. They discussed Dylan like he was an investment vehicle. One email from Trevor, dated 2 weeks before the custody hearing. Make sure the kid understands I'm his real father. The judge needs to see a genuine connection. I'll learn his basics. Favorite color, whatever. You coach me. Veronica's response. He's resistant. Keeps talking about wanting to go back to his dad's house. Maybe if we limit their contact more? Trevor. Do whatever it takes. This policy pays out 30 days after custody is established. Clock is ticking. I felt sick. The next morning, Dylan came down for breakfast. He looked lighter somehow, happy. Can I try out for the travel soccer team? Tryouts are next week? Of course. We'll practice every day. Trevor used to text Mom asking if I wanted to practice with him. Dylan poured cereal, but he never actually showed up. He always had some excuse. That must have been confusing. Not really. I knew he was fake. Dylan looked at me. I've always known, even before Mom told me about the biology stuff. Real dads don't just appear when it's convenient. Smart kid. Smarter than his mother gave him credit for. Over the next few weeks, life settled into a rhythm. Dylan went to school. I went to work. We practiced soccer in the evenings. On weekends, we'd go to his games and I'd cheer from the sidelines like always. Veronica got supervised visitation rights, 2 hours every Sunday. Dylan would come home from those visits quiet and withdrawn. She was working on him, I could tell. One Sunday night, he finally broke. Mom keeps talking about Trevor, how sick he is, how he's in the hospital now. I know, buddy. She says I should visit him, that I'll regret it if I don't. Dylan's eyes were wet. She says real family shows up for each other, even when it's hard. The irony was so thick I could choke on it. Veronica, who'd tried to erase me from Dylan's life, was now preaching about family obligations. Do you want to visit him? Dylan was quiet for a long moment. I don't know. Part of me thinks Mom's right, that I should at least talk to him once. But another part of me, he trailed off. Another part of you what? Feels like it's a trap. Like if I go, I'm saying everything that happened was okay. That he gets credit just for existing. I pulled him into a hug. You don't owe him anything. Biology doesn't create debt. But over the next few days, I watched Dylan struggle. He'd stare at his phone, then put it down, pick it up again. Veronica was texting him constantly, sending photos of Trevor in his hospital bed, playing the guilt card hard. Finally, on a Thursday evening, Dylan came to me. I want to go see him, once, just to say what I need to say. Okay, I'll drive you. Mom says she should take me, that this should be private. Absolutely not. I'm your father. I'm coming. The next day, we drove to the hospital. Trevor was in a private room on the 4th floor. Expensive, probably covered by that life insurance policy he was so desperate to secure. Veronica met us in the hallway. Her face was gaunt. She'd lost weight. The stress of her collapsing plans was showing. You can't be here, she said to me. I'm not letting Dylan go in there alone. This is family business. I am his family. A nurse interrupted. Sir, your son is asking for you. We all turned. The nurse was looking at me. Veronica's face flushed red. He's asking for his biological father. Trevor. The nurse checked her chart. I have Dylan listed as the visitor. The patient specifically asked for Dylan's father to come in with him. Trevor had asked for me. The man who'd spent 3 months trying to steal my son had asked for me. I followed Dylan into the room. Trevor looked worse than I'd expected. The cancer had eaten him hollow. He barely resembled the confident man from the courthouse. His eyes opened when we entered. Dylan, hi. Dylan's voice was small. Thanks for coming. I wasn't sure you would. Trevor's gaze shifted to me. You too. I said nothing. Dylan, I owe you an apology. Trevor struggled to sit up. I didn't come back for the right reasons. Veronica appeared in the doorway. Trevor, don't. Shut up, Veronica. Trevor's voice was surprisingly strong. I'm dying. I'm not dying a liar too. Dylan's hand found mine. I came back because I have a life insurance policy. A big one, but it only pays out to immediate family. I thought, he coughed. I thought I could use you to secure that money. Give half to your mother. She needed it for the divorce. I needed it to leave something behind. Trevor, stop talking. Veronica's voice was panicked. You deserve to know the truth, Dylan. Everything I did, the custody battle, showing up at your games, all of it was calculated. I didn't want to be your father. I wanted to use you as a beneficiary. Dylan's grip on my hand tightened. But then at the courthouse, when you stood up and talked about what makes a real father, Trevor's eyes were wet. I realized what I'd thrown away. Not just with you, with everything. I spent my whole life chasing money. I've got 6 weeks left and nothing to show for it. No family, no one who actually cares if I live or die. That's not true, Veronica started. It is true. You only care about the insurance money. You've checked on the policy 3 times this week. Trevor looked at me. You're a good father. Better than I could have been even if I tried. I didn't know what to say. Dylan, I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to hear the truth from me. Not from your mother's version where she makes me sound noble. Not from court documents. From me. He took a labored breath. I'm changing my life insurance beneficiary. Everything's going to charity. Cancer research. Your mother's going to be furious. But it's the only decent thing I've done in 30 years. Veronica made a sound like a wounded animal. She turned and fled down the hallway. Dylan stood frozen, processing. Finally, he spoke. Thank you for telling me. That's more grace than I deserve. We left 15 minutes later. In the car, Dylan was silent. I didn't push him to talk. When we got home, he went straight to his room. I heard him crying through the door. Later that night, he came downstairs. His eyes were red but clearer somehow. Dad? Yeah? I'm glad you're my father. The real one. Not the biology one. The real one. I pulled him close. Me too, kiddo. Me too. Veronica called the next day, screaming, accusing me of turning Trevor against her, of ruining her life, of poisoning Dylan against his own mother. You did this to yourself, I said. You chose money over your son. I was trying to secure his future. No, you were trying to secure yours. There's a difference. She hung up, then called back an hour later, calmer, desperate. I'll lose everything. The house is already in foreclosure. My credit cards are maxed. I quit my job because Trevor promised me that money. That's not my problem. It's Dylan's problem. Where is he supposed to visit me if I'm homeless? You should have thought of that before you treated him like a commodity. The calls continued for days. Veronica cycling through anger, bargaining, depression. I blocked her number. She started showing up at Dylan's school. The principal had to escort her off campus twice. Finally, she stopped. The silence was almost worse than the calls. 2 weeks later, Bethany called again. Trevor died last night, peacefully, in his sleep. I felt nothing. Maybe that made me heartless. But this man had tried to commodify my son, had nearly succeeded in destroying our family for a paycheck. I couldn't summon sympathy. There's going to be a funeral. Small. Veronica's planning it. She wants Dylan there. I'll ask him. It's his choice. Dylan chose not to go. He wasn't my father. He was just a man who donated DNA. The funeral was on a Wednesday. I took Dylan to school like normal. We got ice cream after. Lived our lives. Veronica sent one final text. You turned my son against me. You took everything. I responded, you did this yourself, the moment you chose money over him. She never replied. 3 months later, Dylan made the travel soccer team. I stood on the sidelines watching him play, better than I'd ever seen him play. Confident, happy, free. A woman approached me during halftime, older, well-dressed. You're Dylan's father? I am. I'm Patricia Kensington, Trevor's mother. She held out her hand. I shook it warily. I didn't know he had family. We'd been estranged for years, but I knew about Dylan. Trevor told me everything before he died. She watched Dylan on the field. He regretted how he handled things. The life insurance, the custody battle, all of it. He told Dylan the truth before he died. That's more than most people do. I know. That's why I'm here. Patricia pulled an envelope from her purse. Trevor did change his beneficiary to charity, but before he died, he set up a trust for Dylan. Not life insurance money, his own money, savings he'd accumulated over the years. It's not millions, but it's substantial. Enough for college, maybe a down payment on a house someday. I stared at the envelope. Why are you telling me this? Because the trust has conditions. Dylan can't access it until he's 25, and it requires a trustee. Someone to manage it until then. She met my eyes. Trevor named you. What? He said you were the only person he trusted to actually put Dylan's interest first. Not the money, just Dylan. Patricia smiled sadly. My son made a lot of mistakes, but in the end, he recognized a good father when he saw one. The envelope contained legal documents, a trust fund worth $240,000, managed by a reputable firm, growing at a conservative rate, with me as trustee until Dylan turned 25. There were conditions. The money could only be used for education, medical expenses, or a first home. Nothing frivolous. Nothing that could be seized by creditors or family members. It was protected, locked down, for Dylan alone. At the bottom of the documents was a handwritten note. Dylan, I know I don't have the right to give you anything. I wasn't there when you needed a father, but maybe this can help make up for some of that. Not all of it. I could never make up for all of it, but some. Use it wisely, and listen to your dad, the real one. He knows what he's doing. Trevor. I showed Dylan that night. He read the note 3 times. He actually did something right, Dylan said quietly. Yeah, he did. Does this mean I have to forgive him? No. Forgiveness isn't something you owe anyone. This is just a gift. You can accept it without owing him anything in return. Dylan nodded slowly, then folded the note carefully and put it in his desk drawer. The trust fund sat untouched, growing, waiting for Dylan to become an adult and make his own choices about how to use it. Veronica found out about the trust 2 weeks later. She showed up at my door at midnight, pounding, screaming. I called the police. They escorted her away with a warning about harassment. She filed a lawsuit, claiming half the trust fund should go to her as Dylan's mother. The judge reviewed the documents, noted that Trevor had explicitly excluded her from any inheritance, dismissed her case in under 10 minutes. You've weaponized my own son against me, she shouted in the courthouse hallway. Turned him into a greedy little brat who only cares about money. Dylan, standing beside me, spoke up for the first time in months to her. You're the one who only cared about money, Mom. I just wanted a parent who actually loved me. Veronica's face crumpled. She looked at Dylan like she was seeing him for the first time, really seeing him. I do love you. No, you love the idea of me, the version of me that does what you want, but you don't love the real me. Dylan's voice was steady, calm. The real me chose Dad, and you couldn't accept that. We walked away, left her standing in the hallway, crying, alone. 6 months passed, then a year. Dylan turned 15. We celebrated with pizza and a new video game. Normal, boring, perfect. Bethany called on Dylan's birthday. I thought you should know. Veronica's in rehab. For what? Pills, alcohol. She's been spiraling since the lawsuit. Lost her apartment. Been couch surfing with friends. My parents tried to help, but she kept pushing everyone away. I felt a pang. Not sympathy exactly, but something. Is she getting better? Too soon to tell. But she asked about Dylan, whether he was okay, whether he was happy. Bethany paused. I told her he was, that you were taking good care of him. What did she say? She cried, then said she was glad. That at least she did one thing right. She chose you to be his father, even if she didn't know it at the time. It was the closest thing to an acknowledgement I'd get. That despite everything, despite the lies and the manipulation and the money, somewhere in the beginning, she'd chosen me, and Dylan, and our family, even if she'd nearly destroyed it all later. Dylan asked about his mother sometimes, whether I thought she'd ever get better, whether they'd have a relationship again someday. Maybe, I'd say. People can change, if they want to badly enough. Do you think she wants to? I think she wants to, but I don't know if that's the same thing. He seemed satisfied with that answer. We settled into our life, school, soccer, homework, weekend movies, the ordinary, beautiful mundaneness of being a family. Dylan started high school, made the varsity soccer team as a freshman, started thinking about colleges, talking about becoming a teacher, or maybe a coach, someone who could help kids the way I'd helped him. You didn't just help me, he said one night during dinner. You saved me from becoming someone I didn't want to be. You saved yourself, kiddo. You're the one who stood up in court. You're the one who chose what kind of person you wanted to become. Yeah, but you showed me it was possible, that there was another option besides what Mom wanted. On his 16th birthday, I took him to the DMV for his learner's permit. Watched him pass the test on his first try. We celebrated with ice cream, practiced driving in empty parking lots every weekend. Normal father-son stuff. The kind of thing Trevor never got to do. The kind of thing Veronica never valued until it was gone. One evening, while Dylan was practicing parallel parking, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Hello? It's me. Veronica's voice. Sober. Clear. Different somehow. What do you want? I wanted to tell you I'm out of rehab. 90 days clean. I'm living in a sober house, working at a coffee shop, going to meetings every day. She took a breath. I'm not calling to ask for anything. I'm calling to say thank you. For what? For loving my son when I couldn't. For being the father he needed. For not turning him against me even though I deserved it. Her voice cracked. I destroyed everything, but you kept him safe. You kept him whole. And I'll never be able to repay you for that. I didn't know what to say. Can I ask one thing? What? How is he? Really? I looked at Dylan in the driver's seat, focused, determined, happy. He's good, really good. He's on varsity soccer, getting straight A's, thinking about colleges. That's because of you. It's because of him. He's a good kid. Tell him, Veronica paused. Tell him I'm proud of him and I'm sorry for everything. She hung up before I could respond. That night, I told Dylan about the call. His face went through several emotions. Surprise, anger, confusion. Finally, something that might have been hope. Do you think she means it? I think she's trying. Whether she succeeds is up to her. Should I call her? Only if you want to, not because you feel obligated. He thought about it for a week, then sent a text. Just one line. I'm glad you're getting help. She responded, thank you. I love you. He didn't write back, but he didn't delete the message either. Small steps, tiny movements towards something that might eventually become healing. 6 months later, Veronica asked if she could attend one of Dylan's soccer games, not to talk, just to watch. Dylan said yes. She sat in the far corner of the bleachers, alone. I kept an eye on her during the game. She didn't approach us, didn't try to talk to Dylan, just watched him play, crying quietly. After the game, Dylan walked over to her, stood 5 feet away, not close enough to hug, but close enough to acknowledge. Thanks for coming, he said. Thanks for letting me. Veronica wiped her eyes. You were amazing out there. Dad's been coaching me. She looked at me across the field, nodded, an acknowledgement, a surrender, an acceptance of reality. Then she left. She came to 3 more games that season, always sitting far away, always leaving without trying to force conversation, respecting boundaries, maybe for the first time in her life. I think she's actually changing, Dylan said after the 4th game. Maybe. Time will tell. And it did, slowly, over years. Veronica stayed sober, kept her coffee shop job, eventually went back to school for a degree in addiction counseling, started helping other people fight the demons that had nearly destroyed her. She and Dylan rebuilt a relationship. Careful, tentative, nothing like it had been, but something new, something honest. They'd have coffee once a month, talk about soccer, school, life. She never pushed for more, never demanded the mother-son relationship she'd squandered, just accepted whatever Dylan was willing to give. On Dylan's 18th birthday, we had a small party at my house, just a few close friends, and Veronica. She'd asked if she could come. Dylan said yes. She brought a gift, small, wrapped carefully. Dylan opened it. Inside was a photo album, pictures of him as a baby, as a toddler, all the years before everything fell apart, before Trevor, before the lies. I thought you should have these, Veronica said. They're yours, your history, even the parts I ruined. Dylan flipped through the pages. His first steps, his first birthday, me holding him in the hospital right after he was born. The weight of that moment, that I'd been there from day one, biology be damned, wasn't lost on anyone in the room. The last page had a photo I'd never seen. Me and Dylan, asleep on the couch. Him, maybe 2 years old, curled up on my chest, my arm wrapped protectively around him. Veronica had written a caption underneath. The moment I knew I'd chosen the right father for my son. Dylan looked up at her. Mom, you don't have to say anything. I just wanted you to know. I've made a lot of mistakes, more than I can count. But choosing him to be your father, that was the one thing I got right. There were tears, hugs, the kind of messy, complicated forgiveness that doesn't fix everything but starts to heal some things. That night, after everyone left, Dylan sat with me on the back porch, the same place I'd sat when Bethany first called about Trevor. A lot has changed, he said. Yeah, but some things stayed the same. Like what? Like you. You never wavered, never gave up, never tried to make me choose between being angry and being happy. He looked at me. That's what real fathers do. I love you, kid. That never changed. Never will. I know, he smiled. Dad, can I ask you something? Anything. When you found out I wasn't biologically yours, did you ever think about walking away? I'd ask myself that question 1,000 times. In the dark moments, the painful moments, the moments when everything seemed too hard to bear. No, not once. You were my son the moment they put you in my arms at the hospital. Biology didn't change that. Nothing could change that. Not even Mom's betrayal? Especially not that. What she did was about her, not about you, not about us. She made her choices, but my choice was always you. Dylan leaned his head on my shoulder like he used to when he was small. I'm glad, because you're the best dad I could have asked for. Biology or not, we sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars come out. Two people bound by love, by choice, by 14 years of showing up. That's what family really is. Not DNA, not court documents, not biology or blood. It's showing up, every day, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard, it's choosing each other, again and again, until that choice becomes as natural as breathing. Dylan started college 3 months later, full scholarship for soccer, majoring in education. He wanted to be a teacher, a coach, someone who could make a difference for kids like him. I helped him move into his dorm, met his roommate, embarrassed him with too many photos. I'll call you every week, he promised. You better. He did. Every Sunday night. We'd talk about classes, soccer, life, the ordinary conversations that mean everything. Veronica got invited to family weekend his sophomore year. She came, awkward, but trying. She and I even had coffee together while Dylan was at practice. Thank you, she said again, for everything. He's a good kid. You should be proud. I am, but not because of anything I did. Because of everything you did. She stirred her coffee. I spent so long thinking biology mattered. That blood was everything, but you proved me wrong. You showed that fatherhood is about choice, about commitment, about love. I didn't prove anything. I just loved my son. That's everything. When Dylan graduated, I sat in the audience crying like a proud parent does. He walked across that stage in his cap and gown, shook the dean's hand, held up his diploma, and he looked directly at me, mouthed 2 words, thank you. I mouthed back, I love you. After the ceremony, he introduced me to his girlfriend. Bright, funny, studying social work. They'd been dating for 6 months. This is my dad, Dylan said, pride in his voice. I've heard so much about you, she said. Dylan says you're his hero. He's mine, I replied. That night, at dinner with Dylan and his girlfriend and Veronica, I looked around the table. This strange, broken, rebuilt family. Nothing like what I'd imagined 14 years ago when I'd held a newborn and promised to be the best father I could be. Better, because we'd survived. We'd fought through lies and pain and betrayal. We'd chosen each other when we didn't have to, when biology said we could walk away. And we'd built something real, something lasting, something true. Dylan raised his glass. To family, the one we choose. We all raised our glasses, even Veronica. To family, we echoed. Not the family defined by DNA tests and court documents, but the family defined by love, by presence, by showing up. The family we choose, the family we become. That's the real story. Not about betrayal or revenge or legal battles, but about a father and son who chose each other, who kept choosing each other through everything. And that choice, that daily, conscious, deliberate choice to be family, made all the difference. Years later, when Dylan had his own son, he called me from the hospital. Dad, you need to come meet your grandson. I drove through the night to get there. When I held that tiny baby, Dylan said, I want to name him after you, after the man who taught me what it really means to be a father. I looked at my son, not biologically mine, but mine in every way that mattered. I'd be honored. That little boy is 5 now. He calls me grandpa, asks me to push him on the swings, wants me to read him bedtime stories, looks at me with complete trust and love, just like Dylan used to. The cycle continues, not of blood, but of love, of choosing, of showing up. That's the legacy we build, not through genetics, but through presence, through sacrifice, through love that doesn't quit. I look at my grandson, and I see my son. Not because they share my DNA, they don't. I see my son because I see the same values, the same character, the same understanding that family is about choice, about commitment, about love. And that's worth more than any DNA test, any court document, any biological proof. It's worth everything.